on your credit report. So that's how those things are weighted. The ability to borrow money and not doing it, or the ability to borrow and pay it back, is very advantageous for credit bureaus. Yeah. So that is, in particular, something you need to just be conscious of. It's not something that everybody knows or thinks about, but the ability to do that is important. So trade lines are a simple solution. Paying back debt, even in lump sum. So if you have $2,500 and you pay $300 or $400 one time, it's going to boost your score short term, even if you pay the minimum the month after. But it always is in 30 days in the arrears. So if you're going to borrow money, you've got to think, I'm not going to borrow it tomorrow. I need to borrow it 30 days from now. What can I do in the next 30 days myself to increase my score, to make myself more lendable? So adding trade lines for a few $100s, again, to offset the utilization, increases the credit score. Those things can be done very simply through different channels that we control, businesses that we have. We show you how to do it. It's not a problem. And those things can make it so that becoming a lendable source is easier. I hope that kind of answers the question. We can talk further about that. I'm sure on like a one-on-one basis, Lindsay will provide my information. We can do that. But the credit bureaus weight everything. They weigh it all. So again, advantages for you in particular is something like being able to borrow money but not, or offsetting outstanding utilization with something like a trade line. So people, for example, have these credit cards, and what they do is they add you as an authorized user. You can't use the credit card. It's not the point. The point is just to use the advantage of what the credit card is at a nice history over the period of time, paid off with a high limit. That's it. So Anthony asks, how do I use my personal credit card to cover some business costs? Or does that Pierce company Vail to speak? Right? Okay, so first of all, you have an LLC. You personally can lend money to the LLC. You can borrow money and pay it to the LLC. The LLC doesn't have to pay you back. You need to track that and say why. So at the end of the year, you can say, I lent my company business, but it didn't pay it back. So you need to make the accountant and talk to an accountant about that in particular on an LLC based on the state you live in. I operate corporations. I don't like LLCs. I don't like subchapter S's. I don't like LLPs. I like corporate structure. Corporations should be at the top pinnacle of everything. And everything, you can have an LLC that's controlled by a corporation, that's fine. But under the corporate structure, you pay a little bit more. You have shares. So if you want to sell shares in your company, it's a little easier, right? So you just have to sell certificates in an LLC if you want to gain a partner or raise money from it. So people that are sitting across the table from you know this, right? So if you were coming to me with an LLC, I would be looking to literally pierce the LLC that way as you use that term in your statement. So I would say I would control, my corporation would be buying your LLC essentially, because you're not going to sell me the certificates. They don't balance out like they do with stocks or shares in a corporation. So rule number one is I would really start with the corporation. They're a little bit more expensive, but double taxation can be your friend because you have the advantage of deducting different items versus an LLC. And God forbid if something happens to your product or you've developed something that could have a recourse, then somebody gets hurt, or even you own a property and somebody slips and falls, you're liable because it's a limited liability company, right? It's not a full-fledged corporation. So you need to get familiar with those terms and learn about that and how to structure it. But you can lend your LLC money to pay debt. And if the LLC doesn't pay it back, you make sure you tell your accountant. Okay? And how can I
Kevin there. He says, I have one credit card with $50,000 limit. I use about $15,000 to $20,000 per month. I paid off monthly. My other cards have about a $10,000 limit. Should I break the one card into two cards?